Hi there folks, and welcome to Mingles with Jingles episode 30, the big 3-0. So, what's new on YouTube this week? Well, as many of you have no doubt noticed, Google Plus integration with YouTube has gone a step further, and the comments section to videos have changed radically, and boy, it sucks, doesn't it? Well, it's not that bad. It wasn't a seamless integration. I had issues posting comments on my own videos when they first introduced it. You may not post a comment on this video. What are you talking about? It's my friggin' video. So yeah, Google Plus. It's not that bad actually. You can choose to view the top-rated comments in a sort of nested list with the responses to the various different comments. Or you can look at it the old-fashioned way with the newest comments first and so on and so on. But the biggest pain in the arse is for me and other YouTubers, because previously, if we wanted to see which of our videos had new comments on them, we would go to our inbox. Well, that's not happening anymore. Now you have to go to Google+, and Google+ kind of sucks. So it's difficult to keep track of the comments that are appearing on our own videos now. You know, if you're a YouTuber, that's the major pain in the arse, certainly for us. So, yay for the new comment system. As for the actual comments on the videos, well, you know, it's got its good points, it's got its bad points, and I dare say a month from now everybody will have forgotten what the old system was like and they'll be used to the new system. But it's just that initial getting used to it phase that we're going through at the moment, and nobody really likes it. Unfortunately, you know, it ain't going to change, it's here to stay, so may as well get used to it. Speaking of communication, I've been considering doing a frequently asked questions file. Although, if we're going to be completely honest, the answer to most of the questions that get asked are either A, in the video description, or B, on Google. But there are some questions that just keep popping up over and over and over again, so in no particular order, here we go. Jingles, my computer won't run War Thunder. What's wrong? I don't know. Next. Jingles, I really suck at playing War Thunder. Can I fly with you one day and you can show me how to play? Okay, first of all, if you're coming to this channel because you're expecting to get tips on how to become a better pilot, yeah, you must be new here. Oh, actually, that's not 100% fair. There is a way of learning how to be a better pilot in War Thunder by watching my videos on my YouTube channel. And here's the secret. You ready? Drum roll. Okay, I can't do a drum roll. And here it is. Don't fly like me. There you go. How to be a better pilot in one easy step. Watch what Jingles does, and then don't ever do that. Okay? Because I am crap. Jingles, which is the better premium tank? The IS-6 or the T-34? I don't know. How good are you at driving IS-6s and T-34s? Whichever one you suck the least in. The next frequently asked question. Jingles, what video capture software do you use? Well, I happen to use Bandicam. What video capture software should I use? Type video capture software into Google and then pick the one you can afford. Likewise with video editing software. I happen to use PowerDirector. But I don't do anything with PowerDirector that you couldn't do with Windows Movie Maker. And Windows Movie Maker is free. So, you know, it's your money. Exercise your right to choose. Jingles, why didn't you answer my email? Don't worry, I'm not picking on you in particular. There are 7,500 other emails in my Gmail folder that I haven't answered either. And you know, that really pisses me off. Not that there are 7,500 emails sitting unread in my Gmail folder. I mean, that's amazing. That's not annoying. The fact that there are just too many of them for me to read, let alone answer. And that's, you know, it's one of the disadvantages of having a bigger YouTube channel. My faithful camera minion, Eddie, he has his own YouTube channel. He has about 500 subscribers, and that's just the right amount to be able to engage with your audience on a one-on-one. He takes pride in answering every comment that gets made on his videos and answering every PM that he gets in his inbox. And when you have 500 subscribers, you can do that. And I also used to be in exactly the same position. Those of you who've been with me from the start will remember that, you know, I always answered my PMs. I always replied to comments on the videos, and it was one of the things that I really loved most about it. But it's just not possible anymore. It's not practical, not with 150,000 subscribers. And you know, first world problems again. I really shouldn't be complaining. But I do miss that level of intimacy, if you know what I mean, with the subscriber base when there wasn't that many of you. I mean, it's great having, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. It's, you know, it's fantastic. But at the same time, you do certainly lose something when you start growing as a YouTube channel. Those of you in the same situation will know what I'm talking about. So instead of, you know, being able to engage with you all on a one-on-one and respond to your in-game PMs and go flying with you in-game, go driving tanks with you in-game, I'm reduced to stuff like this, Mingles with Jingles. It's the only real way I have of, I mean, even doing this, I'm barely scratching the surface of the amount of questions that I get asked. And it's a real shame. It is a real shame, because back when I was a small channel, and it wasn't that long ago, I was able to take a personal interest in every single question that I got asked. And I do miss having that level of interaction with you, the subscribers, but I don't miss it enough to go back to having 500 subscribers, of course. I mean, I'm feeling nostalgic. I'm not feeling stupid, you know. Get things into perspective here. But yeah, it's not all great being a big YouTube channel. You do definitely lose something as the channel grows. But hey, you know, first world problems and all that. So Mingles with Jingles is really the best I can do, as well as, you know, answer the occasional comment on the videos. And I've got no plans to stop doing Mingles with Jingles, as long as you lot find it entertaining anyway. I'll keep doing them every week. Anyway, proper questions. Yeah, why not? This one comes from Sean van Varenberg. I've almost certainly mispronounced his name. And he's not the first one to ask this question, but he wants to know about multi-gun tanks in World of Tanks. Specifically, we're talking about tanks like the M3 Lee, which has a 75mm main gun mounted in a sponson on the right-hand side of the chassis, but it also has a 37mm anti-tank gun mounted in a little mini turret on top of the wedding cake turret on top of the tank. Now, that 37mm gun was actually supposed to be the anti-tank armament, as you know, as the tank was designed. The 75mm was designed for taking out fortifications. In effect, of course, it just turned out that the 37mm was worthless. And the 75mm was actually really, really good at taking out Panzer IIIs and IVs. As well as, you know, also being very, very good with the high explosive round that was provided for it at taking out things like anti-tank guns, pillboxes, bunkers, that sort of thing. Pretty much what it was designed for. So, multi-gun tanks in World of Tanks, like the M3 Lee, how practical would they be? I mean, are there any other multi-gun tanks in World of Tanks? I mean, the M3 Lee is the obvious example. Oh, there's the KV-4 as well. That's got a turret on top of its turret as well, hasn't it? And then there's the some of the British tanks have howitzers mounted in the hull, like the Mark I Churchill. So it's not just the M3 Lee. There are a couple of tanks in the game that have multiple gun systems, but how would you actually go about making it work in the game? Because you already, well, I suppose for something like the Churchill 1 with one gun that only fires straight ahead, kind of like a French tank destroyer, that wouldn't be too difficult to implement. You just assign a different button to fire the different gun. But how would you go about controlling? Because it sounds great on paper until you actually sit down and think, well, okay, how would you make it work? Because aside from those tanks in the game that have hull-mounted forward-firing guns, all the other tanks in the game with secondary guns, like the KV-4, like the M3 Lee, they've got their secondary guns, if you like, are mounted in turrets on top of their turrets. So how would you physically make that work? Because it's difficult enough controlling the way one gun and turret is pointing. If you introduce a system to control a second gun and turret, things are going to start getting complicated. I mean, people find it hard enough to drive one tank. You're effectively asking them to drive two tanks at the same time. Now, in the case of the M3 Lee, it wouldn't be that much of a problem because it doesn't actually have a turret in the first place. But at the same time, turning your mouse traverses the gun in its sponson, so you'd effectively be pointing both the 75mm gun and the 37mm gun at the same target. And if you can't penetrate and kill them with a 75, shooting the 37mm at them isn't going to do any, isn't going to be any use. Although maybe not in the case of the M3 Lee, because as a tier 4 machine, a 37mm gun still has its uses, provided you're not shooting at anything that's tier 6 or 5. The KV-4, on the other hand, what would be the point of that? Well, I don't even know what caliber that second gun is on top. But it definitely isn't 107mm, the same as the main gun. What would be the point of putting that second minigun turret in? You wouldn't be able to do anything with it. And it would just make driving the tank needlessly complicated. Although certainly in the case of the M3 Lee, I could see the case for arguing that it might potentially make it slightly less shit. But I can't see Wargaming going to that much effort to implement a system that is going to be of benefit to very, very few machines. Although, having said that, War Thunder Ground Forces is coming out soon, and Wargaming are probably not above looking for a new gimmick they can throw into World of Tanks, and a lot of the Japanese designs have multiple turrets. I mean, this is complete speculation, but yeah, the World of Tanks, the next test server, you never know. Watch as the internet erupts with the news that Jingles has promised multiple gun turrets and patch 9 on the Japanese tanks on the test server. Don't you just love the internet? Next question comes from Rabbit773. He wants to know, Jingles, have any of the ships you've ever served on been involved in any accidents or had any mechanical failures of some kind? Rabbit, you don't know the half of it. Okay, so here's a potted history of all of the ships that I served on during 22 years in the Royal Navy. First, HMS Brazen, Type 22 frigate, ran aground off the coast of South America, although not while I was on it, luckily for me. Yeah, so that was fun. They patched it up, decommissioned it, sold it to Brazil. My next ship was HMS Nottingham, a Type 42 destroyer. The name may sound familiar to you. That's because it was in the news a few years ago for driving itself into a dirty, great big rock off the coast of New Zealand. Luckily, nobody was hurt, although it did do £60 million worth of damage, so that was nice. HMS Southampton, another Type 42 destroyer, managed to wrap itself around the bows of an oil tanker, the MV Torbay, while escorting it out of the Straits of Hormuz during our Miller patrol operations in the Gulf. HMS Coventry, there have been 7 ships in the Royal Navy to bear the name Coventry. Every single one of them at the time I joined HMS Coventry, the Type 22 frigate, every single one of them had either been sunk, lost in action in some way, or captured by the enemy. So, yeah, I have a bit of a checkered history when it comes to the ships I've served on. Top tip, if you ever find yourself in, for any reason, on the same ship as me, make sure you know where the lifeboats are, because I'm just bad news. Actually, right now, what I want to do is, I'm thinking of starting a new section. I'm thinking of calling it, What's Pissed Me Off This Week? And it's inspired by that massive rant I went on about in last week's Mingle with Jingles about lies in advertising. Now, this doesn't mean I'm going to be going off on one about the way advertising and marketing scumbags lie and manipulate us all the time. There's plenty of things that piss me off, and I figured it deserved its own weekly spot in Mingles with Jingles. But since advertising is what got me started on this whole thing, I figured it's as good a place as any to start. So, what sent me into a frothing rage this week was something quite simple. I bought a bottle of pure apple juice. That's all. On the label it said, no added sugar. Yeah, Yeah, buy our apple juice. It's healthy. There's no added sugar in our apple juice. Apples are 10% sugar in the first place. Do you know what else has no added sugar? Sugar! And guess what? There's sugar in it. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm giving them ideas now. You wait. You wait. Any day now soon, they'll be selling bags of sugar, proudly labelled no added sugar. And guess what? No added salt as well. Public crucifixion is too good for them. I swear it winds me up. Right, yes, so that's what's pissed me off this week. Back to our regular programming. Okay, back to the questions. Harrison Late wants to know, do you know any other funny or cool stories about Australia, and would you ever want to go there? Well, I would. Part of me would love to go to Australia, but the sensible part of me probably wouldn't ever leave the hotel because of the frightening array of absolutely mind-bogglingly deadly creatures that infest the place. The Australian Museum in Sydney compiled a list of 30 of the most deadly animals in Australia based on the threat that they pose and the likelihood of encountering one. And just to put, how amazingly dangerous Australia is into perspective for you, okay, there's a list of 30 deadly creatures, all found in Australia. The great white shark came 17th on the list and was only 7 out of 10 dangerous. That means that there were 16 other creatures, all common in Australia, that ranked 7 out of 10 on a danger rating or higher and were more dangerous than a great white fucking shark. And people live here? What the hell? There's even one of them, it's called the common death adder. Hang on, how common is this death adder? It's a fucking death adder. Why is it common? What, Australia, what is wrong with you? Just, picking some of these animals from the list in no certain order. You've got the saltwater crocodile, which has the most powerful bite of any animal on the planet. So, just putting that one out there. The stinging stonefish, which you find in Australia's reefs. The pain of a sting can be lethal. It produces such mind-boggling agony that the body goes into shock and you just die of pain. The southern blue-lined octopus is another one. It has one of the most toxic venoms on the planet. If it bites you, you're paralysed and you die within minutes. The world's most toxic snake, the inland taipan, is also common in Australia. Well, I say common. It's actually quite a rare snake, but it's the world's most toxic snake. Australia also has the next most venomous snake in the world, the eastern brown snake. Unfortunately, it's very, very common. It basically feeds on mice, and wherever there are people, there are mice. And wherever there are mice, there are eastern brown snakes. There's also the funnel web spider. It's one of the world's most dangerous spiders. Its venom evolved as a defensive tool against predators rather than for attack. Unfortunately, humans are particularly sensitive to its venom. Which is nice. But come on, Jingles. Things aren't that bad. I mean, you stay in the cities, you should be relatively safe. All this stuff only lives out in the outback and the desert, doesn't it? And in the ocean off the beaches as well, obviously, so no swimming. No. The funnel web spider, its actual full name is the Sydney funnel web spider. It's an urban predator. It lives in garages, tool sheds. It even swims. It fucking swims. Nowhere is safe. So, to sum it up, we have over 280 species of venomous spiders. You have 100 different species of deadly venomous snakes. You've got the 2 most poisonous jellyfish in the world, and the great white shark, which is only the 17th most dangerous animal that you're likely to find in Australia. And people live there. How? Is it any wonder that the Australians had a reputation for being the toughest troops in the British Commonwealth in the Second World War? I mean, they'd have to be just to survive long enough to join the army. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to go to Australia, but I'd probably never leave the hotel. And I'd have to be very, very careful I didn't spill anybody's pint in the hotel bar. Australians, you're all as mad as a box of frogs. Anyway, I'm going to finish up with some good news. Those of you who watched my visit to the Defence Capability Centre at Shrivenham video, which was certainly the most fun I've had in any of the museum visits that I've done, including Tankfest, you're going to be very pleased to hear that Ed Francis, who accompanied me on the visit to Shrivenham, has also managed to organise a visit to the Fleet Air Arm Museum at Yeovilton in Somerset. Now, I used to be based at Royal Naval Air Station Yeovilton many, many years ago, around about 1993, I think. And all the time I was there, I never actually went into the Fleet Air Arm Museum. I know, shame on me. Well, it's not just a regular museum visit. We're going to be meeting the pilots of the aircraft that flew them in the Second World War. They're opening the place up for us, just for us, on one of the days that they're closed, so we've basically got the entire run of the entire museum to ourselves. We're going to have access to the engineers that work on the aircraft, the pilots that flew them, all sorts of good stuff. It's going to be a fantastic visit, and we're probably going to have many, many hours of video to show you. Aircraft like the Hawker Sea Fury, the Supermarine Seafire, the Barracuda, you name it, they're all there. The entire history of the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm at the museum at Yeovilton. I'm really looking forward to this video. Can't tell you exactly when we're going yet, don't have a date, but the second I know about it, I'll update it in the next Mingles with Jingles. Really, really looking forward to getting this video out. Hope you guys are going to enjoy it too. And that's it for this week's Mingles with Jingles. Remember folks, whatever you're playing, have fun playing it, and if you're not having fun, why are you playing it? Catch you next time. Take care.